Welcome to the Project Scope Management lecture series. This is lecture number 8. I have covered the collect requirements process in the previous lectures, and in this lecture we will be covering define scope process. As you have seen in my previous videos, that typically we cover input tools and techniques and outputs for a process. In this process, we have 3 inputs, 4 tools and techniques, and 2 outputs. The important thing for this process is we convert basically the requirements document to a better detail document, which is the project scope statement. So keep in mind that you have different inputs, but the main input for this process is the requirements documentation. And if you remember, this is the output of the previous process, which was the collect requirements process. There are some other outputs which we will cover, some other tools and techniques and inputs, but the key point for this process is that you convert the requirements documentation into a better document for your project management, which is the project scope statement. So the first input for this process is the project charter, and project charter, as we know, is the key document going forward in your whole project life cycle. So this is the basic initial document which you need to start working on your project. It has the key information about the project, and some information about the project manager, authority, and the resource, and all those kind of things. So this is the first input. Then we have the requirements documentation. It is a broader document which has all the features or the requirements or the wish list needed by the stakeholder. So the stakeholder, let me just mention stakeholders as such, and then we also have input of organization process asset. This is something, as I mentioned in my previous videos, that this is some sort of a library, so that you have, if your organization has done some similar project in the past, you have the historical information there in the archives, and you have also some templates, forms, and some standards. Okay, so we have gone through all the inputs. Now we will cover tools. The first tool is the expert judgment. As I mentioned many times, that people who have the domain knowledge are the most important people when you are going through the project. So the expert people or the expert judgment is needed when you go through the requirements documentation for a certain project in that domain, and they come up, they go through all the requirements documentation, and finally they come up with a project scope statement, which we will go through in details later. Then we have the product analysis. This is, think about like people like business analyst, where you have these analysts analyzing the requirements and then coming up with how to achieve all those requirements and documenting everything in the project scope statement. We also have the alternative identification and the facilitated workshop as the tools. And let me go through the next slide. Alternative identification is a technique where you identify other ways to achieve the same goal. So say if you have a requirement of having very good, graphics, then how do you achieve those? I mean, how do you achieve this goal or the requirement of having graphics? Number one, you can have a graphic designer in your project, and you hire him, and you create all those graphics. And number two is you outsource to other company whose job is to create graphics. And number three is you can buy a package which has almost whatever graphics you need is built in there, so you can use it. So, so this technique can be applied to any other project in any other domain where you identify different ways to achieve the same goal. So the idea is which alternative would be more cost efficient or efficient time-wise, or would be easier to complete, stuff like that. So basically, I mean, you go through all these alternative identifications so that you come up with the optimal solution. And then finally we have the facilitated workshop. This is a focus group kind of thing where you have stakeholders in a workshop or a meeting setup, and you go through all the details in that meeting, and you further clarify the requirements. So this is also there is a moderator involved whenever you have the facilitated workshops. And the idea of these workshops is to facilitate the stakeholders so that you have a better understanding of their requirements, so that this will be used as a tool to come up with a better scope statement. And finally, I mean, these are the outputs which I will go through in details in the next videos. The project scope statement, which is the document which is the output of this process, which is the most important document going forward. And then we have also the project project let me go through this slide. And the project document update we will also go through in details in the next video. So that's pretty much for this lecture. Thank you very much.